In this video, we are looking at the Casio fx-83GTCW. These are some of the topics we're going to take a look at, and if you want to skip to a particular item, go down to the information box and select on the topic.
Turn it on first of all. Go down to the bottom right and click on EXE. Then we want to click on Settings, so that's just below the On button. Now we get a screen that looks like this. Scroll down the keypad in the middle to reset, then click on the right key. Scroll down to Initialize All, right key again, and then reset OK. We want to initialize all, click on Yes, so click on OK. Your calculator has now been reset to factory settings.
In this tutorial video, we are looking at how to write an improper fraction as a mixed number on the new Casio calculator. First thing you do is turn on your calculator and click on the OK key in the center. Then click on the fraction key, type in the fraction that you want to look at. So I'm going to type in 25/4. I then click on my equals. So we get our 25/4 in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. Now come down to where it says Format and click on Format. Then on your dial up on the top, scroll down to where it says Mixed Fraction. Click on OK. You've now got 25/4 as a mixed number, which is 6 1/4. This tutorial video looks at turning fractions to decimals on the Casio fx-83GTCW calculator. On the Home tab, select Calculate by pressing OK. I'm going to use the fraction key now to type in a fraction. I'm going to use 6/8. So arrow down, input the 8, and when I press equals, it will simplify my fraction to 3/4. I now want to change 3/4 into a decimal form, so I click on the Format key to the left of the equals, scroll down to where it says Decimal, and press on the OK button. It is now showing 6/8, which is 3/4, as a decimal, which is 0.75. In this tutorial video, we are trying to find the highest common factor using our Casio Calculator fx-83GTCW. Same steps for the 85GTCW. On the left here, I've done out a basic example in numeric form, and the highest common factor here is 8. The largest number that divides into 16 and 24. So let's find the answer to the highest common factor using our Casio calculator. So you go to the Home tab and select Calculate by pressing OK. You then select the Catalog button. You scroll down to Numeric Calculation and press OK. You then select the first option, GCD, and click OK. I now want to input the two numbers I want to find the highest common factor of, 16 and 24. So I type 16. I then need to input a comma, so Shift. The comma is above the bracket. You now put in your 24. You need to close off the bracket again, so click on bracket symbol. You then press equals, EXE, and up comes your highest common factor on the calculator, which is 8. So that's using the Casio calculator to find the highest common factor of two numbers. In this tutorial video, we are looking at how to find the lowest common multiple on the Casio fx-83GTCW calculator. Same steps for the 85GTCW. On the left hand side here, I've just outlined what lowest common multiple is doing. So we're going up in multiples of two numbers. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21 are the multiples of 3. And I've listed out some multiples of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So I've highlighted in yellow that the lowest common multiple of 3 and 5 is 15. To find that on your calculator, first of all, reset your calculator and then click on Calculate by clicking on OK here on the Home tab. You then select Catalog, scroll down to the third one, Numeric Calculations, and click on OK. Scroll to the second one, LCM, standing for lowest common multiple, and click on OK. We now want to input the two numbers we want to find the lowest common multiple of. So we type in 3. Then we need to put a comma in. The comma is the blue little comma above the bracket. So you need to press the Shift key, then press the bracket, and then press 5 for my second number, and then close the bracket by clicking on bracket symbol. You then click equals. So it's appearing now that the lowest common multiple of 3 and 5 is 15. So that's how to identify lowest common multiples using the Casio calculator. This tutorial video looks at how to switch between radians and degrees on the Casio fx-83GTCW calculator, and it's the same steps for the fx-85. We're going to look at 4 examples. We're going to look at 2 converting degrees to radians, and then we'll have a look at 2 examples where we're converting radians to degrees. So let's get started with the first one, and we're going to look at converting 360 degrees to radians. So when thinking about these questions, always think about the form your answer is going to take. So in this question here, our answer is going to be in radians. So I need to set my calculator to radians mode. To do that, turn on your calculator, select the calculate form and click on OK. Then select settings. Scroll down to calculator settings. So it's the first one, arrow to the right. Then select angle unit, scroll to the right, scroll to radian and click on the OK tab. We now want to go back to the main screen, so click on Home and click on OK for Calculate. You'll now see a little or up the top, meaning your calculator is in radians mode. To convert 360 degrees to radians, simply just type in 360. Come up the top and click on Catalog. Scroll down to Angle, arrow to the right, then select degrees by clicking on OK. You'll now see the symbol beside the 360 degrees, and to convert that to radians, click on equals. So we've now converted 360 degrees to 2 pi. Looking at converting 45 degrees to radians. So my calculator is already in radians mode now, so I just type in 45. Sorry, I just need to clear that now. So 45 is what we're trying. So 4, 5. Click on the catalog. Scroll down to angle. Arrow to the right. Select degrees. OK. And 45 degrees and press on equals will convert it to 1 over 4 pi or pi over 4. So that's the first 2 examples. We're going to go in the other way now. We're going to convert radians to degrees. So this is example 3, convert pi to degrees. Now again, we need to think of the form our answer is going to take. Our answer is going to take the form of degrees, so we need to set our calculator to degrees form. Easiest way to do that now would be to just reset your calculator. So go to settings, scroll down to reset, because the reset form will be in degrees. So I'm going to click on settings and data and reset OK, and then I go to my main screen and you'll see it's back in degrees mode. So just make sure your calculator is set to degrees mode when you're converting radians to degrees. So to input pi on our calculator, we press the Shift key and then the number 7. You can see the pi symbol is in blue. So click on 7. You don't need to press equals. So when your pi is input into your calculator, go up to the catalog, scroll down to the fourth one, angle, and we select radians. So we will have pi radians, click on the OK, and then to turn that into degrees, we press on our equals. So pi in radians will convert to 180 degrees. Our final example is convert 2 over 3 pi to degrees. So we select on the fraction key first of all. We're going to input 2 pi. So press on the Shift and 7 to get the pi, arrow down and input 3. Now it's important that you arrow out of the fraction. So don't leave it with the little flashing indent here at the 3, just arrow out of the fraction. So our complete fraction is 2 pi over 3. Now select on the catalog, scroll down to the fourth one, angle, click on OK or arrow right. And then you're converting radians. So we select radians, click on OK. So 2 pi over 3 radians, press your equals, is converted to 120 degrees. So that's 4 examples of converting between radians and degrees on the new Casio calculator. In this video, we're looking at how to use the table and graphing function on the Casio fx-83 and 85GTCW. We're going to do an example now in a minute as a quadratic function, however the steps are the same for linear, cubic, etc. Before you begin though, I would advise that you clear or reset your calculator before beginning. So the example we're going to look at here is draw a graph for the function y is equal to 2x squared minus x minus 3 in the domain minus 2 is to 3. Now in the domain just basically means between those two values, minus 2 and 3. So in the table here, you can see my inputs or my x values are minus 2 up to 3. I've gone up in whole numbers. I now need to find the corresponding y values, and then I'll write down my coordinates, my points. So coming over to my calculator, I need to set it to table and graphing function mode first of all. To do that, click on the home button and scroll over to where it says table and click on OK. You will see a screen now with two columns, one for the x, which is going to be my inputs. I'm going to put them in a second. And then it will generate my outputs, my f of x, or my y in simple terms. But before we do that though, you see here where it says f of x, that's my function, and it's saying I don't have a function, it's saying none. So I need to create my function. So to create your function, just below the left arrow key is a word saying function f of x, so click on that white key. Here we scroll down to define the function and click on OK. We now want to input our 2x squared minus x minus 3. So I'm clicking on my 2 key. To get the x, you need to click on the blue shift button, followed by 0. You can see the x above the 0. Then click on the power of 2 button. If you have a cubic, just use the one to the left and input the power yourself. Then I'm using my minus shift 0 again to get the x minus 3. So there's my function. To save my function, click on equals. I now need to put my inputs in, my minus 2 up to my positive 3. So my first input is going to be minus 2. When you have it typed in, you press on the equals button. I now need to put in my next input, which is minus 1. Press your equals after each one. I'm now putting in 0, 1, 2, and finally 3. Remember, press equals after each one. I've now have my inputs in my table and my corresponding outputs, my f of x or my y, as we said. So if I scroll back up through my table to the start, you can see here that my first input was minus 2. It gave me an output of 7. So I'm just going to put that into my table. My minus 1 input gave me a 0 as my y. My 0 as my x gave me minus 3. My 1 gave me minus 2. Scrolling down again through my table, and for my 2 and my 3, my 2 gave me an output of 3, and my input, my x of 3, gave me a y of 12. So again, I'm just going to write out my points now. So my first point is minus 2, 7. And my final one, 3, 12. So that is using the graphing and tables function on the calculator to create the points first of all, and now we'd go off and plot them on our coordinate graph. In this tutorial video, we are looking at how to find the mean and standard deviation on the new Casio fx-83GTCW calculator, which is the same for the 85GTCW. First thing you do when you turn on your calculator is scroll across to Statistics. Click on OK. You then select on one variable. The data that I'm going to find the mean and standard deviation is listed here, 600, 470, 170, 430, 300. So we now need to input our data. So I'm selecting 600. Press equals after each input. So 470, you must press equals, 170 equals, 430 equals, 300 equals. When your data is inputted, you now press equals again. You'll see your screen looking like this. We're going to select one variable results by pressing on OK. The first answer here, x bar, is your mean. So the mean for this list is 394. The standard deviation is the second last one, sigma x, which is 147.3. So our mean, 394, standard deviation, 147. So that's how to find the mean and the standard deviation on the Casio calculator. In this tutorial video, we are looking at how to find the mean and standard deviation on the Casio fx-83GTCW calculator, and it's the same steps for the 85GTCW Casio calculator. First thing you do is make sure and reset your calculator. When you've reset your calculator, on the home screen we select statistics. So we scroll across and select on statistics, go down to the second option, to variable, and click on OK. We then input the data. You can see here that there's 3 bars, x, y, and frequency. For the top of our frequency table, we're inputting the x, 0, and you must press equals after each input. So 2 equals, 3 equals, 4 equals. When you're finished with the x, scroll back up to the top. We don't input any data in the y column. We come over to the frequency. So I'm now putting in the bottom line of my frequency table, so 4, and press equals after each input. So 3 equals, 2 equals, and 3 equals. When you've finished to input all data from the table, we now press equals again to save it. Your screen now looks like this. You select on 2 variable results by clicking on OK. And here are your answers. So the first one here, x bar, that stands for mean. So our mean for the grouped frequency table is 2. The second last one, sigma x, is your standard deviation in terms of x, which is 1.58. So our mean is 2 and our standard deviation is 1.58. So that's the steps for finding mean and standard deviation of a grouped frequency table. In this video, we're looking at how to find the correlation coefficient from the Casio fx-83 and 85GTCW calculator. So before we begin finding the correlation coefficient, just make sure that you have reset your calculator first of all. When you've reset your calculator, the screen will look like this. We need to set our calculator to statistics mode. So from the center dial, arrow across to statistics and click on OK. We then scroll down to 2 variables and click on OK once again. We now have 3 columns, x, y, and frequency. As I look at the table of data, everything from the top is going to go into the x column. So I go to my calculator and I type in 11 and I press equals. When you press equals, you'll see the data go into the table. I then put in my 17, press my equals, 15 equals, 13 equals, and so on and so on. You put in each piece of data individually. When I get to my final piece of data, 14, I press my equals. I now want to arrow across to the y column. So from the center dial once again, press the right key and then press on the arrow key and you'll notice it'll bring you back to the very start, which was 11. That was my first x input. From here, I now put in my y inputs. So starting with 13 on my calculator, followed by equals after each one. So 21 equals, 20 equals, and so on and so on. 12 equals, 14 equals, 14 equals, 17 equals. When you've hit your last equals, you then come down and press on the equals symbol again. The data has now been saved. I want to retrieve my correlation coefficient. So I scroll down here to REG results, right click, and I click on y equals a plus bx, so the equation of the line basically. Click on OK. You will see here the or, the third piece of data, or standing for correlation coefficient. So in this particular question, my correlation coefficient is 0.865. Depending on the question, it may ask you to round it to 1 decimal place or 2 decimal places. And just remember that your correlation coefficient will always be between -1 and +1, where you have your positive correlation from 0 to 1 and negative correlation from 0 to -1. So that's a short video on how to find the correlation coefficient from the new FX calculator. This tutorial video looks at how to simplify a ratio on the fx-83GTCW Casio Calculator. So say for instance we had 10 is to 30. We can simplify that down to 1 is to 3 by dividing by 10. But for more complicated ones, you may wish to use your Casio Calculator to work it out for you. So to do it, click on the Home key, scroll down to Ratio and click on OK. You have 2 options here. I'm going to use the second option, the A, B, C and X. So I'm going to scroll down and click on OK. So I'm going to work with the 10 is to 30. So I'm going to input my 10. So when I put in my 10, I need to press equals to submit it. Then I type 30, press on equals, and it inputs it. So I want my answer to be 1 is 2. Now we know our answer is 3, but you can see here, in order to solve for x, we press on the equals. So it's telling me my missing value is 3. So if I press on the equals again, it'll bring me back to this screen. So my answer is going to be 10 is to 30 is equal to 1 is to 3.